Hey everyone, I hope you had a good weekend and that you're making the most of your time at home. I really enjoyed getting to video chat with many of you last night. I hope we can do that again this coming weekend, and maybe it'll be a little different. If you've been following along, we just finished the phrase, "Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us," from the Lord's Prayer. And we talked a lot about mercy. This week, I'd like to focus on the next phrase of the prayer, which comes from Matthew chapter 6, verse 13. "Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil." The word that comes to mind when I pray this part of the prayer is salvation. Salvation is a word that you might hear a lot around church, or when you sing Christian songs. We tend to talk a lot about being saved. And when someone says they're saved, they usually mean they have made a profession of faith to believe that Jesus died on the cross in order to pay the penalty for all the sins of the world. But what a lot of Christians miss is how this act of sacrifice connects to the religion that the ancient Israelites followed after they escaped out of Egypt. When the Israelites were wandering in the desert, God would often speak to Moses and share how the people were expected to worship God. Moses would in turn share some of these expectations with the people, and some of them he would share with the priests. The priests came from the tribe of Levi, and they were called Levites. All of their expectations were later combined into one book to act as a kind of instruction manual for the Levites, and that book was called Leviticus, which is the third book in the Old Testament. In Leviticus chapter 16, God shares instructions with Moses on how to erase the sins of all the Israelite people. On one day a year, called Yom Kippur, or the Day of Atonement, the high priest takes a goat that has been carefully selected, and he symbolically transfers all the sins of the people onto this goat. The goat is then led into the wilderness and set free to symbolize God's forgiveness of the sins of the people. And this goat was called a scapegoat. So when we think about Jesus' death on the cross, we can connect it to this tradition of the scapegoat. Jesus was our scapegoat, taking on himself all the sins of the world. I'm going to pause right there today, but I invite you and your family to read Leviticus chapter 16, 21, and 22 together, and then talk about how the tradition of the scapegoat is different from or similar to Jesus' death on the cross. Tomorrow, I hope to talk about how the cross does not complete our picture of salvation. But until then, stay healthy, stay safe, stay home if you can, and as always, feel free to share this video devotion with your tribe. I hope to see you soon.